All right, so everyone knows the story of the Israelites escaping from Egypt, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to unpack some of the less explored aspects of Exodus 12 today.
Okay.
So we're going on a deep dive into the Passover story.
Feels good.
Not just like what happened historically,
Right.
but also, the symbolism
Yeah.
and how it still resonates with us even today,
Oh, absolutely.
thousands of years later.
It's really amazing how a story from so long ago can still teach us so much.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we start with a scene that's familiar to a lot of people.
Okay.
God speaking to Moses and Aaron,
Right.
establishing the very first month of the year.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah, it's more than just a new calendar, though.
Right.
It really marks a transition.
Yeah.
A new beginning for the Israelites.
Yeah, like a new era is starting.
Exactly.
And then we get into the specifics of the Passover ritual.
Okay.
Every family had to choose a lamb.
Right.
Or, smaller families would join together,
Yeah.
and they'd choose a lamb together. But it wasn't just any lamb.
Right.
It had to be a male
Okay.
without blemish
Yeah.
in its first year,
First year.
taken from either the sheep or the goats.
Interesting.
So why such specific requirements?
Well, that's where all the layers of meaning start, I think.
Okay.
This lamb, it wasn't just dinner.
Right.
It represents this purity,
Uh-huh.
and it even foreshadows something greater to come.
Okay, so they've chosen their lamb.
Right.
What happens next?
So they keep it until the 14th day of the month.
Okay.
And then the whole congregation of Israel slays the lamb in the evening.
Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine that? This
Yeah.
collective action, the weight of tradition and expectation.
Yeah, so striking the blood on the doorposts.
Right.
What's the significance of that?
I mean, it's a visual marker.
Yeah,
It's a boundary.
like a dividing line.
Yeah, and the blood, it acts as a sign.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of protection for the Israelites. It's this covenant between God and his people.
So the blood acts as a shield.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then we get to the meal itself.
Yes.
The Passover meal.
It's a Passover meal.
Roasted lamb,
Yeah.
unleavened bread,
Uh-huh.
bitter herbs.
Such a stark scene.
Yeah.
Almost primal.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And each element carries this deep meaning.
Yeah, like the unleavened bread.
Right.
That represents purity and a fresh start.
Okay.
And leaven, which often represents corruption,
Right.
that's totally forbidden during this time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that idea of unleavened bread
Yeah.
can be applied to our own lives.
Right.
Like, think about those moments when
Yeah.
you had to make a sudden change
Right.
and leave old habits behind.
It's all about stripping away the things that hold us back.
Yeah.
Both physically and spiritually.
Absolutely. And the instructions in Exodus are very clear.
Oh, yeah.
Eat with urgency.
Yeah.
Be ready to depart at a moment's notice.
It creates this sense of anticipation.
Yeah.
Like this future is about to unfold. They're not just eating a meal.
Right.
They're preparing to leave everything they know behind.
Everything.
Everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even the instruction to burn any leftovers until morning.
Right.
That speaks to the urgency of the situation, too.
Yeah. Absolutely no room for hesitation.
Yep.
This is like a complete break from the past.
A clean break.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So they're ready,
Right.
loins girded,
Yeah.
hearts heavy,
Uh-huh.
and they just await what's to come.
Yeah, and that's where things take kind of a chilling turn.
Yeah.
God passes through Egypt,
Right.
striking down the firstborn.
The firstborn of man and beast.
It's a moment of such stark
That
contrast.
really is.
Devastation for the Egyptians,
Yeah.
but for the Israelites,
Right.
marked by the blood on their doorpost,
Yeah.
there's protection.
Uh-huh. And that act of passing over,
Right.
that's where we get the name Passover. And the blood becomes a symbol of God's covenant,
Oh, yeah.
his promise of safety to those who are faithful.
So this night, it becomes a pivotal point in their history.
Right. A night to remember,
Yeah,
a night to commemorate.
for sure.
It becomes a feast for the Lord.
Right?
The Passover,
Yeah.
observed throughout generations,
Yeah.
a constant reminder
Yeah.
of God's deliverance.
His covenant with his people.
Exactly.
And central to that commemoration
Yeah.
are the 7 days of unleavened bread,
Uh-huh.
no exceptions.
No exceptions.
Anyone eating leavened bread during this time
Right.
is cut off from Israel.
Yeah. And this strict adherence to the unleavened bread
Right.
really underscores the idea of spiritual cleansing.
Okay.
It's about leaving behind the old ways.
Right.
The things that corrupt.
The things that hold you back.
Exactly.
So the plague has struck.
Yeah.
The Israelites are spared,
Right.
and Pharaoh witnesses this devastation.
Yeah.
And he finally relents.
He finally gives in.
Yeah.
Exodus begins.
The Exodus begins.
The text really conveys the urgency of the situation.
It does.
Pharaoh tells Moses and Aaron, "Get you forth from among my people."
Wow.
And even the Egyptians are urging them to leave quickly.
Really?
Saying, "We be all dead men."
It must have been absolute chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And they weren't exactly prepared for a leisurely journey.
No, they left with unleavened dough.
Wow.
Which symbolizes
Yeah.
this hasty departure
Right.
and their new beginning.
They're literally carrying the embodiment of a fresh start on their backs.
That's a great way to put it.
And then there's that detail
Yeah.
about the Israelites spoiling the Egyptians,
Right.
taking with them jewels of silver and gold and clothing.
Yeah, that's a point of contention.
It is, isn't it?
It's generated a lot of discussion.
For sure.
Some people see it as a form of just compensation
Right.
for centuries of forced labor,
Yeah.
but others view it as more morally ambiguous.
Yeah. It's tough.
It is.
It adds a layer of complexity to
Yeah,
the narrative.
for sure.
And it raises questions about justice,
Right, yeah.
retribution,
Yeah,
and what it truly means to be free.
big questions.
They be a question.
But one thing is clear. The Israelites are leaving Egypt.
They are.
They're heading towards the promised land
Yeah.
with a mixed multitude joining them.
That detail about the mixed multitude is interesting
It is.
because it suggests that the desire for freedom,
Right.
for a better life,
Uh-huh.
transcends ethnicity and background.
It really does. It's a reminder that the pursuit of freedom
Yeah.
is this universal human longing.
And it all started with the events of that one Passover night.
It's amazing.
It is.
What's remarkable is how this story
Yeah.
transcends its historical context.
In what way?
Well, it foreshadows events
Okay.
that would unfold centuries later.
Like what?
Well, think about the unblemished lamb sacrificed. Its blood protecting the people.
It does seem to parallel the sacrifice of Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jesus, the Lamb of God,
Right.
whose sacrifice atones for the sins of humanity.
So the Exodus becomes more than just a physical escape from slavery.
It does.
It's also about spiritual liberation,
Yeah,
breaking free from the things that bind us.
absolutely. And that's a theme
Yeah.
that resonates with people
Yeah.
across cultures and throughout history.
It's a universal theme.
It is.
The longing for freedom, the
Yeah.
struggle against oppression.
The hope for a better future.
Yeah.
All these things are powerfully expressed
Ah.
in the Exodus story.
Even after all these years,
I know, it's incredible.
the story of the Exodus retains its power.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, what other layers of meaning we might be missing.
Yeah, it's such a rich story.
It is. What stands out to you the most?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the idea that true freedom comes at a cost.
Okay.
The Israelites were freed from slavery, but it required sacrifice.
Right.
And that theme, it kind of echoes in the sacrifice of Jesus. Yeah.
Offering humanity a path to spiritual liberation.
Yeah, that's a powerful connection.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Exodus 12,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that you think our listener should consider?
Well, I hope they gain a deeper appreciation
Yeah.
for the historical and symbolic richness of the Passover story.
Okay.
It's not just a tale from the past.
Right.
It continues to shape our understanding of faith, sacrifice,
yeah.
and redemption.
Yeah, and I think it challenges us to look at our own lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Where are we enslaved?
Right.
What are the leavened things that we need to cast off?
Yeah, what are the sacrifices we're willing to make
Right.
to reach our own promised land?
Exactly. This deep dive is just the beginning.
It is.
I encourage our listeners to explore the story further,
Yeah.
to delve into its many interpretations, and to see how its themes resonate in their own life.
I think that's a great point.
It's a story about redemption, about hope.
About the enduring human desire for freedom.
Absolutely.
And although it's thousands of years old,
Yeah.
it still speaks to us today.
It really does.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Exodus 12.
Thanks for having me.